Welcome to Kingdom Mothers Rise Up, where I encourage and equip you to heal your heart and renew your mind so you can live the fully abundant life Jesus promised you. Let's go. It's time to move.
Welcome to this episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm excited to have Sandi McClafferty with me today. She is a certified Christian life coach specializing in mental health. She has worked with women in the public sector, in peer counseling, agency counseling, and has her own journey of improving mental health. So she brings all of that together into her life coaching and shares about that on her podcast, Seeking Hope and Finding Joy. So welcome today, Sandi.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. Pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. And can you tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the mental health? Why is that where you chose to focus?
I think that I chose to focus there because of the fact that I've always kind of been in social services, and I've done a lot of work with women. Like when at the time I was doing YWCA, when it wasn't really so far gone, and I worked as a sexual assault victim survivor advocate, and so there's a lot of mental health with that. And then I've just been surrounded by it, by friends and family. And then I had my own journey down, and I went to a place that was ran by others that have had experiences like this, a peer counseling agency. And I found help there. So with my experience, my background, and all of that, I've just been gravitated toward it. I think that the church needs to be able to address that better.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that they're coming out to that point now, and I really want to bring that to women so they understand there's no shame in this. And as the common phrase is, you're not your diagnosis. So we don't have to live with debilitating everything. So I want to help people on those journeys.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. Kind of in connection with the mental health, you did one of my Heart Doodling with Jesus workshops a while ago, maybe a couple months ago now. I've just opened a Heart Doodling for Jesus membership where you have access to all the workshops that I have done and a new workshop each month. The current workshops are Emotions Shouldn't Drive, but they do need a seat in the car, a workshop on processing an emotion, a workshop on dealing with disappointment. November's workshop is The Power of Heart Doodling. So each one walks you through not only the how and why of what I'm doing, but you actually have the opportunity to doodle right along with me and see what I am doodling and how I'm approaching things. Because there's some principles in place, but there's not hard and fast rules and guidelines because it's creative and it's about following what you need and what Holy Spirit is telling you. So I invite you to come and join the membership. It's only $7 a month. There's also options to get a discount for joining a year at a time. And there's also a lifetime membership that is an amazing deal. If this intrigues you at all, invest $7 and a little bit of time and come and check out the Heart Doodling with Jesus membership. Coming from your background of working with mental health and then just your experience of that, I wanted to get your perspective, both professionally and personally. So maybe start with the professional perspective on if you're looking at mental health, what is this, the doodling with Jesus? How is that connected in your mind?
Well, I was thinking as you were saying that, I was kind of going back to and visualizing groups that I would run. We would do different ones, and some of them would be crafts or finances or just learning about emotions, right? Because a lot of people that come from mental health concerns or anything of abuse sort of know three emotions, and that's to be happy, to be sad, or to be mad. And it kind of, that's it. And then, we used to teach all of these range of emotions. And thinking about if I were to run a group with this, it would be very, very helpful because of the questions that get to be answered the questions that you're putting out there at the beginning I always forget the two questions. I always have to go back and look, but forgive me, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
that's
there's
okay.
two, like, prompting questions that you're trying to get to. And then being able to doodle that and then think about that. If I were in a secular situation, it would be very helpful to help people understand emotions. What is this about? Right? What's going on? And in most recovery centers, there is a higher being of some sort. If there, a lot of them are step programs, like 12-step, that kind of thing. And so you can bring that in, and it would allow people to actually be able to sit with that and think about it and know that there's an emotion in there that they didn't know before. And this is what it feels like. And this, might be a great emotion, or it may be really scary, but it's a safe place in order to do that. And on the artistic piece of it, a lot of people, when they add in color and that kind of thing, they've not had that opportunity before that I've worked with. The stick figure type thing is so cute. I love it. It's so easy. Anyone could do that. And it's so adorable. And yet when you put that in there and you think, this is me, and I'm connecting it to these motions, and I've got these answers, and this is what it feels like, and now I get to color in this kind of thing. It activates everything for them, and it adds to a healing perspective. In a Christian, if I were doing Christian counseling with someone or coaching, you can still use that and, of course, point straight to God and Jesus and have the all-encompassing spiritual enlightenment and understanding with it, and hope. And so from a professional standpoint, I think it's awesome. I really do. I would want to use it in a minute. It would really add to people's dimensions of how they understand what feelings are, and that they can have more than just the three. I've done so many anger management classes. It's like, oh boy, and guess how many are men with little please sign my court paper, because they get themselves in trouble. And this would be another avenue. I could see that. I could take it into the jail and help people with that. And they'd be like, really? And so I think that's great. On a personal level, I found it really freeing. When you kind of prompted me through it, first of all, I can't draw a stick figure. I mean, I can, but not from the side and the head. I was like, what do we do? How do we do this? If you remember correctly, really, what is it? The mountain thing. And I love that. And now I practice with it. So that helped develop my, spatial skills to figure out how to put somebody sideways that's really a stick figure. But when I first took the class, I didn't have any paints. I just had colored pens, basically. But once I got through these things, with the drawing the stick figure and answering and, sitting with God about it, that was awesome. I started coloring in, and I don't know why. It's like a whole different experience. I was blown away by what that kind of painting and or coloring does. And I don't know why. I haven't figured it out. I haven't looked into it. I don't know what the answer is. I think you said that it just sort of brings it all together at different parts of our brain. So I think it's fabulous. I love it. I really do. I went out and got all the paints and everything that I needed so I could do it. What does McCove have? Oh, she has the one you can travel with. Okay, where am I going to get that? So that's what I did. I was overjoyed with it. I shared it with my daughter. And so on a professional level, super good. On a personal level, it really hits home. I've journaled for years, but adding that last piece just sort of puts it all together. And I don't know why, but it really works.
We'll be right back.
Heart Doodling with Jesus is a membership where I do a live workshop once a month where we explore an emotion or an idea through doodling, which is just a simple creative process. I encourage you to draw with permanent markers and paint with watercolor paint to create space to listen to your emotions, the thoughts that are in your head, and what the Lord wants to say to you. And it's not about creating art. It is not about being good at it. It's about practicing the pause to go, what am I really feeling? What do I really think? What do I really believe on this particular topic? And giving you tools that you can use for yourself and with your kids to continue to explore your emotions outside of the workshops. You can come back and do workshops again and again if you're in the membership, but you also can take the practice that I'm teaching you and do it on your own for what's going on in your life. If you're interested in joining me, there's a link in the description.
Yeah, so the doodling process in the workshop, I had just draw a simple stick figure of how you're feeling, and then asking, like, what does this feel like, to expound on, because, okay, I'm happy, but what does that actually feel like? And what is going on? And what other thoughts are there with that emotion? And what is God saying to me in this emotion? What do I need to do because this is how I'm feeling? And I feel like adding the color is part of just letting us sit with it. Like, you talked about creating that space to be with your emotions and figure out, like, what is going on here. Because the drawing and the writing and what are my thoughts, it's still kind of in our brain. But when we start putting color to it, yeah, it brings in that spirit part and that creative part. Like, we are created in our creator's image. So we are made to create. And so I think that it kind of bridges that between, like, the logical, analytical side and the experiencing, feeling, emotional side, to, like, okay, now I'm going to put color to this, and I'm going to continue to sit with, why did I draw it this way? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? So that's my theory, that adding the color is just creating that space for everything to kind of connect and settle, and to just sit in it a little longer. And it reminds me, the Hebrew word for meditate can also be like marinate.
Oh,
And so
right.
I often think of that, of like sitting there and coloring is just kind of continuing to marinate in it, like letting it soak in. And when you marinate something, it changes it. You know, a cucumber becomes a pickle, or
Yeah.
a tough piece of meat becomes tender, and that flavor gets in and it changes it. And that's what meditating on God's truth is supposed to do for us. That's why it's important to meditate. And so it's creating that space to go, okay, this is what I was feeling, and this is what I was thinking, and this is what's true. And I can, whether it's making connections with an emotion you hadn't recognized before, or just letting God's truth go a little deeper, but it's that marinating in it to let it soak in and change us, instead of, I'm trying to be better.
Yes. Yeah. It does, doesn't it? It just sort of takes that pressure off of me doing everything myself, which we can't at all do. We have to have a renewed mind through Christ, not us, or we'd all be doing it, right? Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
does. It allows us for being open to having that. I like that. I like the way you said that.
You say you've been adding this doodling to your journaling. So are there any stories or moments that are like, oh, this one was really cool, that you could share?
Well, it's kind of like one that I had seen you do. I was spiraling last month, and part of it was just things going on, and I overloaded my schedule, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I had seen, which was really interesting, I had seen yours about the same day, of the spiraling thing, and I was like, I have to do that. I have got to do that. And when I first started with it, I was more concerned about how to do the spiral, and the perfection thing that you're trying to get rid of through this. But I was worried about that. So I would make it really good. And then I couldn't figure out how to start it and where to start with the words. And why did you color some of them this way and paint them, And I was like, you know what, just forget it. Just write everything. And so I started writing. And the more I wrote about how out of control everything felt, the more I felt relief, reminding myself and being reminded that God is in control. God is in control. This will pass. This won't stay forever. And back in the day, boy, I'll tell you, many years ago, it will always be this way. If I am down, it will always be this way. That's not true. And this helped to pull that out a lot easier. And I found the sense in coloring it, and I liked it. And I realized, oh wait, I'm going to paint this part, and that's just one sentence of what's going on with me. And over here, I'm going to do this one because it's a whole new one. And I was trying to work with that because I've never done it before. But by the time I had finished and had written out the word, and I can't remember what it is, I have it over here. I should have grabbed it, but I think it was spiraling or chaos or something. By the time I had finished that and sat with the Lord, a big burden had lifted off of me. I didn't feel out of control or so overwhelmed because I know that God can piece everything out. And if I go to him and share all this with him and say, God, what do I do? Holy Spirit, help. I don't know what to do here. It just sort of calms you. And after I left that, honestly, I felt so much better. I felt like I could face the rest of the afternoon because I did it in the afternoon. And it changes my emotions so much that it almost changes the course of the day and that kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, that was then. I can do this now. I've got this. And I really feel that this is a wonderful way to connect with God and his truths and stop living and feeding myself or listening to a silly lie. And it puts it on paper so you can go back to it and go, oh, yeah, I remember that. So you can revisit that. And one of the things I've done with journaling is I love to go back and look and see what was I doing, what was I thinking, and I'll add to it, after a year or whatever, and laugh or, that was silly, or, yeah, God really answered my prayer, that kind of thing. Or, boy, did that turn around. I can't believe it. And I thought it wouldn't. So I like to have it where it's all where I can see it because I'm a visual person like that. And honestly, when you first taught me this, I was so overwhelmed with everything that I said, it changed my life. It changed my life. And it really did. It has changed my life in many ways by doing this, being able to find other avenues, color it in. I'm obsessed with the coloring it in thing, and painting it, bringing it to life. I don't know. And sitting with God with it, it's just really, really amazing.
That's incredible. And for me, doing the pictures is helpful because the pictures stick in my mind. I've journaled for years and years and years too. And I know there's times I've sat down and I've journaled out everything I'm overwhelmed with and kind of come to that place of truth. But I wasn't able to hold on to it like I do with the doodling. And I think it's because I have a picture to hold on to. Yeah, that's how I was feeling, but this is what the Lord spoke to me out of that. And so I can hold on to that because that picture is there. And then just the power of getting it out of our head, and it's not that doodling is the only possible way to do this. Like you can share it with a friend, you can write a list, but if you get it out of your head, like you said, it brings that perspective to look at that and be like, okay, now that I wrote that down, that is ridiculous that I was feeling that way, but you were feeling that way. So why were you feeling that way? And what was going on? So I love that you've been able to take it from the workshop and bring it into everyday life of like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I think I'm going to doodle about this.
Yes. One day, when of saying that, I was feeling so down, and I remember taking the gray and making these clouds, just painting these gray clouds. And I hadn't felt this way in a very long time. So I had to really sort through that. But being able to put them in there, even that time, I was thinking, God, why? I know you're in control and all of this. So there's this thing that happens that I really loved in your workshop. And I just can't say enough about it. I think it's wonderful. When you were talking about, excuse me, like getting in touch with emotions and why am I feeling that? One of the things we used to do when we were doing groups or workshops, and these poor men, a lot of the people that came in were men or, homeless and a lot of women, but mostly men. And the men would come in and we were supposed to say, well, check your body. How does that feel to you? Right? The guy's like, I don't know, but do you feel tense or whatever? I always feel tense, So there's this there's no way to connect at all, especially for men. It's very hard. So doing it this way, man, I can see how that, especially there's a lot of wonderful artists that are out there. Oh my goodness. So many wonderful artists. And to be able to connect that all, that's a lot easier than saying, I don't know, my stomach hurts now because I thought of this. It's just really hard, but putting it in this form, man, it's a game changer. That's what I keep saying. It's a game changer. It's a game changer because it really is. This is amazing. I would encourage anyone to take your workshops and stick with it and start doing it because it really does work magic. Well, it's not magic. It's God, but they use that term everywhere.
It's powerful.
I
think part of it is that, like, if we're feeling something, a lot of times we're like, well, I don't really want to feel that, so I'm just going to continue on with my day. But understanding that we're feeling what we're feeling for a reason. And so the sooner that we listen to it, the sooner that we connect with what we're feeling and why, the sooner it moves on. So like doing your gray clouds, instead of being like, well, I haven't felt this way for a long time. I don't need to deal with that or, whatever, of like, well, they're here. So I'm curious about that. Lord, what do you want to say to me about that? And it's just, it is a game changer. It's powerful.
It really is. Yeah, I totally agree. It's pretty amazing stuff. And I just really am blown away by the power of it and the impact. So I see great things ahead for you with all of this and changing lives, God working through this. So.
No, thank you so much for joining me and sharing today. And you have any parting thoughts you want to share?
Let's see. Parting thoughts would be that I would encourage people to really do this. I would encourage people to, if they have artistic husbands, friends, boyfriends, whatever, to really help them work it out if there's something they can't deal with. I really would, because it's helpful. When you were saying about not wanting to deal with the emotion and putting it away, that reminded me, I had gone to a counselor years and years ago. And one of the things, the tool was, okay, well, we're going to compartmentalize. Because first of all, we women don't do that. It's like, what does that mean? I had to have a whole explanation of what it meant. Oh, okay. How do I do that? So after it's explained that we're breaking these things up and waiting in different spots, there was this idea of putting everything that was bothering you in a jar or a box and putting it there and putting it on a shelf so you'll get to it later. Okay, that sounds great. So, but then I wouldn't remember to go get it down. And, that was the point. You could go look at it and bring it down and analyze it while you are feeling calmer. Well, I never got to that part. So I think for we women, it would be very good if we could sit down and do the whole thing, and we don't have to compartmentalize anything. And God will lead us and help us understand our joy, our irritation, all of these things, and bring life to us this way through his word and through praying and that kind of thing. So I think it's a lot better than sticking it on the shelf and not dealing with it. So that's something I wanted to say. Let's do it now.
Yeah, sticking it on the shelf for later is not a good approach. It's kind of like, the junk drawer or the hall closet where or that, if you have that guest room that you just shove stuff in because you'll get to it later. Yeah, what does it look like when you get to it later?
Oh, right.
Way too overwhelming. So you just slam the door again.
Yeah. Oh, it's just too much. Yes. And this sort of takes care of that as it goes. So I really enjoyed your class, and I really enjoyed learning how to do this method. And it's helped me greatly. And like I said, I shared with my daughter, and she's very artistic. So it was helpful for her too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Sandi.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up podcast. I'm blessed to have you here. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join us in the Kingdom Mothers Rise Up Facebook community. When you're ready for more support, I have the Heart Doodling with Jesus monthly membership, periodic group coaching, and one-on-one personalized coaching as well. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.